Welcome to The Ladder, a weekly dose of personal development ideas to help spark your imagination, increase your leadership skills, and bring more success into your life. And now, here's your host, James Ferris.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Ladder. I'm your host, James Ferris, and today, as always, we are focused on helping develop skills that can help you ascend the ladder as a leader and in other places as well, just in overall success. And today's topic, I'm going to try to keep this very short. I'm on a kind of a timeline and trying to get this in with about 13 other projects today. So I'm going to do my best to keep this short. Today's topic is patience. It's a very important principle, something very near and dear to my heart. Inside of our martial arts school, we have something called the 4 cornerstones of mental training, and they are listed in big, bold letters up on our wall above our mirror so that students and parents see them each and every time they enter the school. So the very first one is patience, just for sake of you knowing what they are. Respect, modesty, and honesty are the other 3, but we're going to be talking about patience today. So patience is, we define that in our school as being willing to wait. And there are just volumes of things that help support the fact that patience is a good thing. One of the very first things that we're taught as a child is that patience is a virtue. So what is a virtue? Well, a virtue is something good. It's a virtuous thing is a good thing. So nature requires us to be patient, to wait until she is ready to bring forth plants and vegetation and fruits and vegetables. And we have to be patient with nature as far as waiting out a storm season, letting the storm season pass, right? So here in Florida, we have something called the rainy season, aka summer. I learned that last year. So pretty much the whole summer season is just rainy, 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 and we get some nice days in between there, of course, but that's just something we have to wait for. It's not like a video game where we can, buy a few gems and hurry that process up. And, we just have to learn how to wait for it. So it's the same thing in martial arts, and it's the same thing in anything else. So as an example, in my martial arts school, we have those words on the wall we call the 4 cornerstones of mental training: patience, respect, modesty, and honesty. And those, for us, they're not just decorations on the wall that look nice, and we say the words and all those kind of things. We actually have a way to teach each and every one of those things. And so those are that's why they're called the cornerstones of mental training. Without all 4 of those things, it's very, very difficult to navigate as a martial artist, especially in a school like ours. We're a very traditionally oriented school, so we include things like philosophy. We don't just teach people how to, grab somebody's arm and snap it in 2 places, or how to take somebody's gun away from them or their knife or anything. Those are things that we teach later on in our training. But just as important as learning how to throw a proper sidekick is how to take the same principles of learning how to do that sidekick and taking the principles of working on that, using our self-discipline, working on that sidekick and continuously refining it until we have an excellent looking sidekick. And then learning how to apply that very same thought process to our home life, to our schoolwork, to our career, or anything else that it is we want to do. And so number 1 is patience, number 1 on that list. So the most important thing a student can have as a martial artist, and the same thing that's important for you and I to have as human beings or students of anything, is patience. Learning to accept that we have to wait a little while. The problem with our society, though, is everything has been expedited. We get things without having to work for them anymore. We're just given things. As long as we complain, there's an old saying that says the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and we have been teaching that to our kids and in our school systems and in other places, and it's become commonplace for our culture these days. And so it's very difficult for kids and adults many times to have that patience and to exercise that patience and to allow things to take their time. Nature is going to do it when nature is ready. And each individual person has a different potential within inside of them. I have a different potential than you have a different potential than I have. And in some areas of my life, I'm going to have more potential than you are, and in some areas of your life, you're going to have much more potential than I do, or I have. So that's the concept here. And so we have students that will come in, and they want to bypass learning all of the basics and learning the foundation because of what they've seen on television. They want to hurry up and skip past all of the foundation building so that they can do skipping kicks and jumping kicks and spinning and flipping and all these kind of crazy things that are really not part of the traditional martial arts curriculum. They have been something that's been added in over the years as television and movies really made martial arts mainstream. And so now we have kids that come in expecting that they're going to learn those things on day one. And unfortunately, there are lots of programs that cater to that mentality. And this is the reason why we have what I think is an erosion of quality in virtually everything in our lives, not just the martial arts, but certainly including that. So we have to learn how to be patient with, number one, ourselves, and recognize that if we learn a little slower, it's okay. I'm one of those people, by the way. We also have to be patient with the process that's put in front of us. So in my martial arts school, it's kind of like a test a little bit. If the parent or the student doesn't have the patience to go through a 2 to 3 week introductory orientation process where I'm going to teach them very slowly and properly so that when they join my group lessons, they are going to be able to manage them and not feel like they're a fish out of water, which is what we've done in the past. And it's a very difficult thing to be able to do, is to throw somebody into a class of students who've been training for a year, and this is a very first class for another student. How do you keep from not slowing that class down to the very screeching halt for that brand new student, and how do you keep from boring the tears out of the more advanced students who are ready to move on? So that's where patience has to come in. And so if I have a parent that doesn't have the patience to have their child go through my program and explain to them, hey, this is martial arts and part of martial arts training is patience. If I don't have that kind of support from that parent outside of my school, then that student or that parent, they're probably not going to be a good fit for our program, because that is exactly what we are going to do. I'm going to do a lot of talking in the beginning. I'm going to do a lot of explaining in the beginning. I'm going to basically paint a map for them that says you are here, and here's the goal. Here's where we're trying to get to, and this is what we use to accomplish this goal. And again, be patient with me. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with the process. Don't try to speed anything up. And that's how do we speed things up? As a parent, we might go in and complain and say, "Oh, well, my child's he's bored," or my child it's not challenging enough. And those are little attempts to say, "Hey, let's speed things up here. Let's move things along," and that's not traditional martial arts. Traditional martial arts is like this. Back when the Shaolin Temple was very famous for developing probably the best martial artists on the planet, the process went something like this. A Chinese young man would want to study with the Shaolin monks and go to the temple. And so what he had to do was to sit outside, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months, and sometimes for years, in the rain, the snow, the sun, and the cold, and whatever came their way. And they had to sit there and prove themselves that they were patient enough to be accepted by the Shaolin monks. And then when they got accepted, they were then shown that they had to be further patient they were told that they had to, and again, I'm using very vague numbers here, but they were told that they had to sweep floors for the first year. And if they couldn't handle and be patient enough for that, then they never went to the next level. And when they got to the next level, they were told that they had to do this first. And they always had something that they had to do first to show their patience. But once they got that foundation built, see, those things that they had to do, such as sweeping the floor, had a lot to do with building their foundation and building upper body strength and muscles and their discipline, all the things that they would need to be able to function at the higher levels. And if the student had that kind of patience, they could ascend the ladder in that organization, and they would then be gifted with these fantastic skills. These sometimes people thought they were magical skills that they were able to accomplish, and the things that the average human being would never be able to do. Now, if you were to take one of these young Shaolin monks that came in and bypassed all of all the things in the beginning, proving that they're serious by waiting outside until they're accepted, and proving that they're serious by waiting and sweeping the floors and just trusting what the abbot or the master said to do. If they just bypassed all that and threw them up to the top level or the middle level, that student, that Shaolin monk, would find out very quickly that they didn't belong there. And that's what we see in our world, all over the place. It's in martial arts, but it's everywhere you look. And we're all trying to find a way to shortcut the system. And that's unfortunate, because when we try to shortcut the system, we actually end up shortcutting our skills. We actually end up shortcutting our understanding. We end up shortcutting the entire process, and we get what we invested, right? So if we didn't invest the time in the beginning to build the foundation, we can easily build what's called a house of cards and make it look like it's a structure. But the moment that something comes through that's a little bit challenging, a strong wind or something, that house of cards is going to come tumbling down, and it's going to be a direct result of the fact that we weren't patient enough in the beginning. And so that's my message today, guys. How patient are you with the things that you're attempting to learn how to do? Are you patient or are you impatient? If you're impatient, you're going to be in for lots of frustrations and heartache and disappointment. If you learn to be patient, what do they say about patience? Good things come to those who wait. So that's all I've got for you today. Hope you enjoyed it. And this is James Ferris saying, ascend the ladder with me, but do it with patience.